Anyone wishing to speak on, for, or against? Chair recognizes Ms. Noble to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've spent a great deal of time as a legislature trying to figure out ways to lower property taxes. The clarity that this bill provides will further help local taxpayers, and I move passage.
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, would the lady yield for a few questions?
She yield for questions?
Yes.
She yields for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. On Section 4, page 4 of your bill, starting in sub C, starting in sub C, your legislation states that a defendant in this case, in any of these causes of actions, a defendant may not use Rule 91A of the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. Are you aware that what that rule does?
I'm not advised.
Okay. You do know that rule in the Texas Rule of Civil Procedure is called the dismissal of baseless causes of action. Correct?
Not advised.
Okay. So I'm sorry. You're not sure, or you don't know?
I'm not looking at that part of the code.
Okay. So Rule 91A it says that the court may not award attorney's costs or attorney's fees under Rule 91A. 91A says that if somebody files a frivolous lawsuit, a baseless lawsuit, that means that there's no rhyme or reason why they should be filing it. That the AG or the person that's allowed to do this can just.
You do realize that the amendment we just adopted narrowed it down to just the AG.
Yes,
you
correct.
do understand that correctly.
Correct. Okay. And you understand that the AG in this statute, in the existing statute, the AG has the ability to recover costs. Correct?
I am not advised in that statute. I'm not reading that statute as you are.
No, not Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. Literally, the statute that you are amending right now, Section 2273.004 of the Government Code.
Yes, our goal, of course, is not to have any action. Our goal is to have cities not doing this, and therefore there is no need for a cause of action.
Yes, of course. And in the existing law of that statute that we have already put in place many sessions ago, the existing law provides the Attorney General with the ability to recover court costs. You're aware of that?
Correct.
Okay. But on the flip side, you're now purposely denying the city the ability to recover court costs for a frivolous suit, even for a frivolous suit.
I would be very sad if we thought that our Attorney General was bringing a frivolous suit. That is certainly not the will of this legislature. And I will say this, that again, that the goal is to keep cities from using taxpayer funds to transport women out of state for something that is not allowed in Texas.
And I understand that we wish and hope many things, but part of the point of rules is that we establish guidelines that say if something happens, that there is a remedy for it, there is a protection for it, but you're specifically taking that protection out. Correct?
I am keeping my bill as it came from the senator. Yes.
And in sub C2, you specifically strike out chapters 27 and 110 of the Civil Practices and Remedies Code. Are you aware of what those chapters do?
I do not have those in front of me.
Okay. Do you know that Chapter 27 of the Texas Civil Practices and Remedies Code is the Texas anti-SLAPP statute?
Again, I do not have that part of the code in front of me.
Okay. Well, let me help you out just a tiny bit. On Chapter 27, the stated purpose of Chapter 27 is, it says, quote, in statute 27002, The purpose of this chapter is to encourage and safeguard the constitutional rights of persons to petition, speak freely, associate freely, and otherwise participate in government to the maximum extent permitted by law, and at the same time, protect the rights of a person to file meritorious lawsuits for demonstrable injury. This law, if passed, would prohibit cities from this purpose.
Again, my goal is to have cities comply with the law. Absolutely, they must comply with this law. That is our goal. That is the goal of our legislature every time we pass a law. And yes, that is the goal of this law.
But you're not arguing with me that it doesn't restrict cities from the application of this chapter, right?
I'm going to stay within the four corners of this bill and stick with the wording that was sent to me by Senator Campbell.
So the wording of this bill is that cities, if they're sued, may not use protections of personal freedom and public freedom as a defense.
Our goal, once again, is to never have a city be sued because they are so in compliance with this law and other laws of our state.
Are you familiar with Chapter 110 of the Texas Civil Practices and Remedies Code?
Again, I do not have that in front of me.
Do you know that Chapter 110 is called the Religious Freedom Protection Act?
I will take your word for that.
Okay. And you would also deny a city, a defendant, from using that act as protection?
I cannot fathom a time or place where a city would need to use a religious freedom excuse to send women out of state for the purpose of an abortion. I cannot fathom that in Texas.
Well, I mean, but that's why we have robust debates on the floor, because I might bring to you the ideas that other people may not think the same way and have other perspectives. So thank you very much for your answers.
Thank you.
And Mr. Speaker,
Move passage.
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
I move to reduce to writing all conversations on SB33 in second and third reading and place in the journal. And I think there's more.
Motion is there objection to the adoption of the motion? Chair says the motion is adopted.
Mr.
Ms. Gomez, for
Speaker,
what purpose?
would the gentlelady yield for some questions?
Lady yield for questions. She yields.
Representative Noble, I appreciate you working with Representative Howard on the amendment that you took to this bill. I do think it makes it slightly more constitutionally palatable. To the extent that we've, as you and Representative Wu just said, we've stripped the city of the anti-SLAPP protection. So we understand, under your bill, are there any defenses available to an organization or a city from these accusations that they're assisting or aiding someone in crossing state lines for the purpose of an abortion?
I apologize. I really didn't hear part of what you said.
Members, please take your conversations outside the rails.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Noble, understanding that your bill expressly strips these entities of the defense of anti-SLAPP and religious protections, what defenses are available to organizations accused of violating this law?
Again, we're not talking about organizations. We're talking specifically of cities who violate the law as we pass it. And our goal always in this room is to have our laws followed when we pass them, and not for a city to just find another loophole or another perceived loophole. So that's why this one is so clear, and that's why we felt like that we needed to make the penalties so clear, is because we don't want them just finding yet another perceived loophole.
And I do agree with you. The penalties are clear, but are there any defenses enumerated in your bill for cities?
I am not advised.
Okay.
I have not looked at that entire code.
There are none. What specifically is the burden of proof now of the Attorney General to prove once he or she is lodged an accusation like this against a city?
To my understanding, it's the preponderance of the evidence.
A preponderance of the evidence of again, what intent? You understand that your bill...
I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV, and I'm also not a judge. And so I'm assuming that your questions would be better served in a courtroom should this ever need to come to a courtroom. But
I have
don't
no
believe
doubt that
it
it
will
will be
because I
litigated
believe
immediately.
I believe that it's so clear that the cities will comply and that that your arguments will be unneeded and
Are
unnecessary.
you aware that your bill does not enumerate any specific mens rea or intent on behalf of a city to allegedly be in violation of this law?
That would be between them and the court and the Attorney General.
So again, what is in your opinion, based on the way you've written this, or you've agreed to carry the language in this bill, what specifically does the Attorney General have to prove to show that a city has violated this bill? Would you like someone else to answer for you? Or?
No, I'm not an attorney, so I'm just making sure I'm not messing up on this. I believe that any normal American can read this bill and know clearly the intent of it and be able to avoid violation of it very, very easily. And of course, that is our goal.
You'd agree with me that your bill does not enumerate any intent or mens rea whatsoever.
I am not going to agree with
guilty.
you on that. My bill is very clearly what it is, and I want, and again, the goal is to have cities who do not use taxpayer funds in order to transport women out of state to do a procedure that is not allowed in Texas.
So your goal is specifically.
By the way, this is civil. You do realize that. This is a civil remedy,
I thought
not
you,
criminal.
I thought you weren't an attorney. Did you just?
I'm not.
decide
Somebody
to
just
figure
told me
out?
that. So
Oh,
isn't
an
that cool?
attorney did tell you that. Okay.
They're so helpful, and I love these guys.
Okay. Again, understanding that, so we are creating a new separate cause of action for the Attorney General to enforce. Is that correct? I know you're not an attorney.
As written.
And it was my understanding, I guess, earlier in our discussions with even you and I have had, and I and a number of your colleagues have had, that the Republican Party in general is highly adverse to creating new causes of action. Is there any reason that you've made an exception for that in this case?
Yes, because we don't want to be litigious. But when a city decides to so very clearly circumvent what was you weren't here yet, the very, very clear intent of a law that we passed in the 86th legislature, it's time to get a little bit more stern, and that's what we have done.
In protecting women and protecting taxpayers' rights. Correct?
Protecting taxpayer rights.
So are you aware that earlier, I guess even this month, there was a proposed legislation on this floor to create a cause of action for a woman who was denied the right to breastfeed?
I'm sorry, are you talking about a different bill than
I'm talking
this
about
one?
causes of action
No,
in this
no,
bill. And in general, you and multiple colleagues
Members,
voted
please keep your
against.
remarks on the bill.
I am not going to discuss other bills while we're talking about this one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I move passage.
Members, question occurs on passage to third reading of Senate Bill 33. A record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Leach voting aye. Ms. Bowers voting nay. Show Ms. Noble voting aye. I'll give you guys a little extra time. All members voted. Show Mr. Cook voting aye. Have all members voted? Ding, 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 ding. We good? All right. There being 89 ayes, 57 nays, Senate Bill 33 is passed the third reading.